News Central now, this hour begins in Lagos, southern Nigeria, where an accident involving a J5 Ford bus and a Mercedes truck happened along the Third Mainland Bridge on Monday morning in Lagos, according to the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority. The accident has resulted in the death of one, leaving 4 others injured. The LASTMA Director, Public Affairs and Enlightenment Department, Adebayo Taufik, in a statement on X.com on Monday, disclosed that LASTMA officials led by General Manager Olalekan Bakare-Oki arrived promptly at the scene and began rescue operations. The statement gave further details of the tragic incident, reporting that all affected were transported to the General Hospital on Lagos Island for medical attention. Additionally, findings suggest that the J5 Ford bus experienced brake failure while traveling at high speed, resulting in the collision with the Mercedes truck. Away from that now, the Supreme Court will today, Monday, December 16, 2024, hear a suit seeking to remove President Bola Tinubu from office. The case, filed by Chief Ambrose Owuru, the former presidential candidate of the Hope Democratic Party, challenges Tinubu's qualification to serve as president. Owuru alleges he won the 2019 presidential election and claims his mandate was denied due to a scheduling error in the Supreme Court. He also questions Tinubu's eligibility, citing a past $460,000 forfeiture in the U.S. over alleged drug-related charges and accusing him of CIA ties. The suit involving former President Buhari, INEC, and Tinubu has sparked national interest as legal experts await the court's ruling. Now, in all the news, the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government has approved the exit of the 3 countries of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso from the Union from January the 29th, 2025. This was as the authority, chaired by President Bola Tinubu, met in Abuja to deliberate on recent events within the sub-region and prefer strategies aimed at improving the well-being of citizens within the community.
It was the 66th Ordinary Summit of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government. In attendance were heads of state from ECOWAS member countries. The President of the ECOWAS Commission gave highlights of the current state of the community.
On the economic front, member states have shown resilience amid global and regional challenges. While global growth has slowed to 3.2% this year, ECOWAS countries are expecting a slightly improved average growth rate of 3.8% compared to 3.6% in 2023. However, inflation and public debt levels remain significant concern, highlighting the urgency of fiscal prudence and efficient debt management.
President Bola Tinubu, the chair of the authority, reminded member states of the objective of the community and their quest to achieve integration and prosperity.
Our gathering here today reaffirms the founding principles of our fathers and that of our organization, established to promote economic integration, peace and prosperity for our region through cooperation and solidarity.
The meeting then went into a closed-door session which lasted several hours. Upon resumption, agreement by the authority on the request by Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso to exit the sub-regional body was conveyed to all present.
The authority takes note of the notification by Burkina Faso, Republic of Mali, and the Republic of Niger of their decision to withdraw from ECOWAS. The authority acknowledges that in accordance with the provisions of Article 91 of the revised ECOWAS Treaty, the 3 countries will officially cease to be members of ECOWAS from 29 January 2025.
The authority has also set a space of 6 months as a transitional period during which their countries can be readmitted back into the Union. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
In the meantime, the military regimes of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger have announced that their 3 countries are a visa-free zone for all nationals of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. This was disclosed in a statement read out on Malian public television by Mali's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Abdoulaye Diop. He, however, said that members of the Confederation of Sahel States reserve the right to refuse entry into their territory to any national of the Sahel state who falls into the category of inadmissible immigrants.
Des États du Sahel, AES, est un espace sans visa pour tout ressortissant des États membres de la Communauté économique des États de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, CEDEAO. 2. Les ressortissants de la CEDEAO ont le droit d'entrer, de circuler, de résider, de s'établir et de sortir sur le territoire des États membres de la Confédération des États du Sahel dans le respect des textes nationaux en vigueur. 3. Toutefois, les États membres de la Confédération des États du Sahel se réservent le droit, conformément à leurs lois et règlements, de refuser l'entrée sur leur territoire à tout ressortissant de la CEDEAO entrant dans la catégorie.
Now, staying with developments at the 66th ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, President Bola Tinubu has called on West African leaders to emulate Ghana's recent peaceful elections, praising the democratic maturity displayed. He made this known at the 66th ECOWAS Summit in Abuja. Tinubu commended Ghana's outgoing President Nana Akufo-Addo and the Vice President for accepting electoral defeat, setting a regional example of respect for voters' will. President Tinubu highlighted ECOWAS's strides in regional integration, counterterrorism and peacekeeping missions in nations like Guinea-Bissau. He urged renewed commitment to economic growth and security as ECOWAS nears its 50th anniversary. Leaders from across West Africa attended the summit, reinforcing the bloc's shared vision for unity and progress.
Nana Akufo-Addo and the people of Ghana for the successful election, and urge all of us in the region to learn from this good democratic practice and prioritize our country's national unity to ensure political stability of the region. That this manner of peaceful transition, because the culture of democracy is not only in West Africa, but also in the entire African continent. At this junction, let me take time and give a special validatory to one of us, Mr. Democrat. Attending ordinary session of the ECOWAS Authority of Head of State and Government, Your Excellency, President Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana. Thank you for being who you are.
Meanwhile, Nigeria has paid its accrued debt owed the Economic Community of West African States to the tune of 85 billion naira. President of the ECOWAS Commission, Omar Toure, disclosed this in his statement at the opening of the 66th Ordinary Session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government in Abuja. Now, he said while the community had suffered slow response from member states in remitting their levies, Nigeria, under the leadership of President Tinubu, had cleared its levies from 2023 to date. The ECOWAS president also lauded the efforts of President Bola Tinubu, the federal government of Nigeria, for always supporting the efforts of the regional body.
Good news, and indeed a very good news, is that for the first time in 19 years, Nigeria has decided to pay 100% of its community levy from 2023. I am therefore pleased to announce that on Friday, 13th December 2024, Nigeria paid 85 billion naira and 54 million US dollars, representing 100% of the 2023 levy and the levy of 2024 up to July 2024. We all agree that this payment underscores the leadership and commitment of President Ahmed Tinubu, the government and the people of Nigeria to our community. At a more personal level, it represents a mark of confidence in the management that I have been privileged to lead since 2022.
Let's move away from that now to politics, where the presidential candidate of the new Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, during the 2023 election, Rabiu Kwankwa, met with the former president Olusegun Obasanjo in Abeokuta, Ogun State. Kwankwaso met with Obasanjo at his Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library (OOPL) residence in Abeokuta, alongside former governor of Cross River State, Donald Duke. The former Kano governor disclosed this in a post on his X handle, formerly Twitter. Kwankwaso explained that during the courtesy visit, there were deliberations on significant national issues, including the future of politics and governance in Nigeria, defined the conversation. This is not the first time Kwankwaso would meet with the former president. Earlier on, National Publicity Secretary of the NNPP, Ladipo Johnson, who was part of the delegation, spoke to News Central on the visit.
For them, it's a normal thing to meet regularly, but it's a signal to Nigerians that people are talking, leaders are talking and considering the way forward for the country. Sometime by May next year, it will be midterm for this government, this administration. And so political parties, political leaders, and political analysts will begin to discuss the state of the economy, the state of the country, to know whether we're heading in the right direction and what needs to be done. So it was a timely visit, although, of course, President Obasanjo had come to Kano a few weeks back to attend Senator Kwankwaso's daughter's wedding. And so he was basically going to say thank you to him, but then they used the opportunity to sit down with His Excellency Donald Duke and the other two gentlemen as well.
Now, the media office of former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello has dismissed a report by a blog as fake and malicious. The blog claimed Bello made disparaging remarks about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Describing the report as a product of a sick mind, Bello's media director, Ohiari Michael, clarified that no informed Nigerian will take the claim seriously, noting that court proceedings involving the former governor have not commenced beyond plea submissions. Bello reaffirmed his respect for President Tinubu and commitment to APC. The media office has altered security agencies to track down the report's authorities, or authors rather, vowing legal action against the purveyors of such misinformation. We go on a short break now, and when we come back, the headline, "He died after we paid military 140,000 naira for transport," will be delved into. And this was said by the family of Okwama elder who died in a military custody and have cried out. We have more details after the break, so stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, the family of 81-year-old Pa Dennis Okubaye, the treasurer of the Okwama community in Delta State, has revealed the circumstances of his death in military detention on the 10th of December 2024. They disclosed that they paid 140,000 naira to military officers for fuel to transport their ailing father from Port Harcourt to Asaba, only to be informed later that he had died en route. 6 days after the incident, neither Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborevwe nor military authorities have issued a statement. Pa Okubai's death follows that of the community's President General Pa James Ogoroko, who also died in military detention. Both were among 6 community leaders detained without trial since August, following the killing of 17 soldiers during a peace mission. A social critic, Zik Bimri, has condemned the governor's inaction, calling it a failure of leadership and institutional accountability. Now to security matters. The Nigerian military has warned terrorist groups in the northwest to surrender or face the wrath of the military. The commander of the 1 Brigade headquarters in Gusau, the Zamfara state capital, Brigadier General Timothy Opurum, made this known to journalists in Gusau, the state capital, saying that the increasing reliance on the improvised explosive devices by the terrorists is a sign of desperation and tells of their final defeat. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
For the 3rd time in a week, Maru local government area of Zamfara state has experienced incidences of explosion, which has led to several casualties, a situation that raises a lot of questions about the current war against terrorism in the northwest. While the military says that there is no cause for alarm, they add that the terrorists are feeling the heat of the military firepower and have decided to adopt the use of IEDs.
The threat level in the joint operation area is further compounded with the emergence of the Islamic State in the Greater Sahel, terrorists known as the Lukrawas. The presence of these terrorists is believed to be a well-calculated move to leverage on the existing terrorism and banditry activities in the theater to expand their operations from the republics of Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and Benin into Nigeria. The increased tempo of operation has enhanced security, including economic activities along main supply routes Gusau, Safe, Funtua, as well as other routes in the theater.
The terrorists has begun to use improvised explosive devices in recent times. And that is a sign of a defeatist. As when we are hitting them very hard and they felt that the pressure is becoming too much, they come up with other strategies, either to incapacitate the advancing force or to prevent us from approaching the enclaves.
Also in neighboring Katsina State, the commander of the 17th Brigade Nigerian Army, Brigadier General Babatunde Omopariola, noted that over 50 bandit groups with varying affiliations, agendas and tactics have been identified to be operating in the state, adding that the brigade has remained undeterred and have continued to work with other security agencies to deal with emerging threats.
We do have over 50 bandit groups operating in the Katsina State. And these bandit groups have different leaderships, varying alliances, different kinds of motivations, different locales, and different tactics.
Citizens within the Northwest have pledged to cooperate with the military as they look forward to the defeat of these groups so they can return back to their life as normal. In Katsina, for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
Moving away now from security matters, Nigeria's federal government has called on citizens to embrace dialogue and mutual understanding as key foundations for rebuilding trust between the government and the people. Now, this statement was made by the country's Minister of Budget and Economy during the closeout event for the Project Trust Initiative and the launch of Connected Development's strategic 5-year plan. A correspondent, Joshua Imarai, was at the event and filed this report.
It was the closeout event for the Project Trust Initiative, facilitated by the pro-transparency group The Connected Development. The event, held in Nigeria's capital Abuja, was attended by the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, alongside other key players in the transparency space. Organizers say that the Project Trust Initiative was conceived to promote social accountability and transparency, ensuring that Nigerians can fully enjoy the dividends of democracy.
From the title of the presentation, of the project itself, it's trying to emphasize how we can improve trust deficits. 7% of Nigerians believe that elected officials and election institutions cannot be trusted. So that's where the challenge is. We need to improve on that. We need to curb these things.
So for us is to continue to galvanize voices. And today you have representatives from the 6th geopolitical zone. What are the lessons we're learning? At the subnational level, how can we ensure that whatever happened at the national trickle down to the subnational and the local government? Today we have a local government autonomy, meaning that more resources will go to local government so that citizens will enjoy the dividends of democracy. But if there is no trust, then citizens would not accept what government is doing, and government will continue to isolate themselves.
Also speaking, Nigeria's Minister of Budget and Economic Planning urged citizens to engage more with government so as to build trust in governance.
The number one key to building trust is to remove presumptuousness so that we can listen to each other. We can maybe share, sympathize with each other, and generate an irreducible minimum consensus that we believe can mobilize and unify us.
At the end of the event, a 5-year strategic plan for the connected development was launched. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Iwarai.
And now, African leaders have been tasked to equip women on the continent with the right tools and resources to lead the continent's formal and green economy. This call was during the maiden edition of the African Women Sustainability Conference, which held in Abuja, the nation's capital, focusing on empowering women on the continent as catalysts for sustainable growth and development. Experts at the conference say despite the contribution of women in business, especially the informal sector, they continue to face severe financing gaps amounting to about 42 billion naira.
Women constitute approximately 50% of Africa's population and own about 58% of Africa's MSMEs. Yet, according to the AFDB, we face a $42 billion financing gap. This isn't just unequal. Again, it's like leaving half of your talented players at the bench during the most important match of our time.
Women are the backbone of African informal economy. Still, we must go beyond recognition and equip them with the tools, resources, and opportunities to lead the formal and green economies. This conference is a call to action. It reminds us of the immense potential for green investment opportunities within the Federal Capital Territory. Let us ensure that our women entrepreneurs are equipped and empowered as catalysts for sustainable growth.
And now to health, the African Coalition in Tuberculosis in Nigeria has called for a multi-sectoral approach to combat tuberculosis in the country. Health stakeholders, while making this call during the National Tuberculosis Conference, which held in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, called for more government commitment, grassroots participation, private sector involvement, and media participation in addressing this public health issue.
Stigmatization of people with TB is still very high in Nigeria, and this is the next line of action that we're going to tackle, because now we are finding the TB cases, we are putting them on treatment, but we have to address the issue of stigma, and the stigma starts from self-stigmatization. People that are positive for TB, some of them are self-stigmatizing themselves. There is no need to stigmatize yourself for having tuberculosis.
Coming up on the news, death toll rises to 38 in El Fasher after drone attack. We have the details after the break. Join us again. Now, ECOWAS has endorsed the creation of a special tribunal for Gambia to prosecute crimes committed during Yahya Jammeh's 22-year dictatorship. In a statement on Sunday, the bloc emphasized the court's role in ensuring justice for human rights violations between July 1994 and January 2017. This marks the first collaboration between ECOWAS and a member state to establish such a tribunal. Jammeh's regime was notorious for severe rights abuses and misappropriation of state funds, according to rights groups and Gambia's government. Jammeh fled the country in 2017 after losing to current President Adama Barrow in a landmark election. The tribunal aims to deliver accountability for the victims of his oppressive rule. We now head to the east of the continent, where the death toll from a drone strike on a market in El Fasher, Western Sudan, has risen to 38. This was revealed by a local NGO, the Coordination of Resistance Committees. The attack, attributed to the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, targeted the Aulad Al-Reef neighborhood market. Earlier, reports by state news agency SUNA confirmed over 15 fatalities, with many others injured. The RSF has not commented on the incident just yet. Since clashes erupted in April 2023 between the RSF and Sudanese armed forces, more than 28,700 people have been killed and over 14 million displaced, according to international organizations. And the violence continues to devastate the region, deepening Sudan's humanitarian crisis. Let's move now to South Africa, where President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver the keynote address at South Africa's National Day of Reconciliation today, Monday, the 16th of December 2024, in Rendidal, Western Cape. This year's theme, Healing Historical Wounds and Forging New Futures, underscores efforts towards reconciliation and national unity. The holiday, established in 1995 after apartheid, reflects the country's commitment to healing and social cohesion. The event will honor South Africa's diverse history, celebrate veterans, and focus on fostering racial harmony and nation building. The government chose December 16 for its cultural significance to Afrikaner and indigenous South African traditions, highlighting shared history. President Ramaphosa's address will call for continued progress towards reconciliation and the forging of a unified future. And to further discuss this, we're now joined by national spokesperson, United Africa's Transformational Party, Mighty Mabule. Mighty, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me, and Kanimambo.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Mighty Mabule. Now, let's dive straight into it. Mighty, how exactly has the National Day of Reconciliation evolved since since its inception in 1995? And how effective has it been in fostering national unity in South Africa?
Thank you once more. The National Day of Elections, honestly speaking, when you look at the South African circumstances and all the socio-economic challenges that are facing us as a country, it hasn't really made impact. When you look at what is actually happening in this country, it is kind of regarded just as some kind of another holiday, you know, where people move away from work and so on. Because remember, as a country, we come from a brutal system of apartheid, where as Africans, we're not allowed to participate in the mainstream of economy. Land has been taken away from us. Now, when you talk reconciliation, reconciliation must be able to heal those wounds. I hear the president when he spoke about healing the wounds, but you cannot talk about healing the wounds. You cannot talk about fostering unity if a fundamental resource like land was not returned to the people, because land is a dignity to Africans, land is prosperity to us, land is economic power to us. So when you look at what has actually happened since the coining of this day, the Day of Reconciliation, as South Africans, many of us were actually saying it didn't really make much impact because poverty is still very rampant in this country. Hunger is still very rampant. Land is still in the hands of the few, of the white minority. And when you look at our kids, you know, in that poverty statistics, you know, the greater part of it is young people who finish school with diplomas and degrees but cannot work. So, and I don't want to talk about the racism that is still rampant and so on. So it's just like another day that is celebrated with political engagement and many political jargons, but in the true sense of the word, We did not really reconcile. The wounds are still there. The country is still divided. People are still poor. And our dignity, which is land, has never been returned to us.
Asking about the theme for this year. Now, the year's theme focuses on healing historical wounds and forging new futures. What specific measures or programs has the government implemented to address these issues?
Look, the problems that we have are much, much bigger than the programs that were developed. There's been a number of programs that have been developed, but unfortunately, those programs did not really make impact in terms of addressing those socio-economic challenges that are actually facing our people. I'll give an example about the Triple BE legislation, which was designed initially to kind of address the imbalances of the past. But what has happened is that the economy is still in the hands of the white minority, but the same legislation was able to empower, only the politically connected. So the country is still suffering some kind of economic injustices, hunger rampant, poverty rampant, but those programs did not actually assist in terms of addressing those imbalances. Now, when talking about land, remember we're also talking about mining. We're also talking about agriculture. We're talking about tourism. Those are the key economic drivers when you look at the South African economic architecture. But all those things, our people as Africans were not participating in the mainstream of those sectors from ownership point of view and from control point of view. So the programs are there. The programs are there, very, very scholastic and academic, but unfortunately, those programs cannot translate into bread and butter on the table. So you can have the best programs in the world, the best initiative in the world. But if those programs cannot change the lives of the people, cannot bring the dignity of the people back, then you run the risk of having irrelevant programs. Yes, there's a number of programs, the BE Commission, the BE Act that gave birth to the BE Commission, a number of transformation charters to make sure that different sectors are transformed. But if you look at the Black Economic Empowerment Commission report, you'll actually realize that not much has been achieved. I don't want to talk about employment equity, where it was the issue of addressing those injustices, where Africans were not allowed to participate in certain careers. You have an employment equity commission, but there's no teeth to bite. So honestly speaking, the president speaking about healing the wounds are still there. Forging new futures, how can you future if you have taken my fundamental dignity or my fundamental resource and you don't return it back to me and you're saying we must move forward? How do we reconcile and move forward if I've been robbed and all my powerful resources have been taken away from me? That is not possible.
All right. I also want to ask about the significance of hosting the event in Verdendel, Western Cape, and how does the location contribute to the broader goals of reconciliation?
Look, I'm also surprised in terms of the reason why the event was actually hosted in Verdendel, except the fact that it's a pure agricultural area that is a home for large wine sellers in South Africa, and it has a number of boutique wines and dried food depot, But the question remains, who are working there? Who are making this a powerful key economic driver? How are they treated? What is the ownership structure of that? I had the president talking about some of the farm workers, being part of the ownership of the structure. I participated personally in the committee that was working on making sure that the farm workers own those farm workers that work for 10, 20, 30 years are part of the ownership. It's not happening because those that robbed us, those that still have our wealth in their hands, they don't want to transform. So they should have taken these things to the rural areas of Limpopo, the rural areas of Eastern Cape, the rural areas of Northwest, so that they can see the poverty that is there, so that they can see that people are just struggling with basic water, just basic water. So they moved it to Western Cape. a purely agricultural area that is full of wines and processing plant that create an impression that we've reconciled and moving forward, which is just a pure superficial progress. So honestly speaking, I don't understand the reason why we took it there. Because if you are really saying you have made progress, take it to the rural areas, to the poorest of the poor, so that you can be able to say, few years ago, these people were looking like this because of the intervention that they've actually implemented. Now they look like this. But as I've already indicated, is poverty, is a hunger. There's no medical facilities. There's no recreation facilities in the rural area. The water is still a challenge, and so on and so forth. So honestly speaking, I don't know the reason why they've taken it to Frental, except the fact that it's a pure agricultural area that is actually owned and managed by those that stole our land and are not willing to return it to us.
Okay, so Mighty, you are the national spokesperson for the United Africans Transformation Party. I'd like to ask you, what do you think your party would have done differently if you were the ones in power?
Yes. We if we're in power, would have done things differently. Look, the great revolutionary Fidel Castro said, the first task of a revolutionary is to tell the truth. If you really want to change the lives of the people, tell them the truth. Now, the first thing that we would have done as a Pan-Africanist organization that believe in the development of Africans is to tell the people the truth. The truth that said, when political power was negotiated, there was no pure negotiation on how economy and land will return to the people. That's a preamble. We'll say to the people, things did not go well. Things did not, things were not done properly when this thing was started. But as a United African Transformation, one, we will make sure that we champion a land program, a land ownership program, land utilization program. Because without land, it's very difficult to champion agricultural sector. Without land, it's very difficult to have an industrialization program. And globally, all powers across the world have been subscribing to industrialization program. There's no superpower that is actually, did not focus on industrialization. There's no industrialization without land. I don't want to talk about mining. I don't want to talk about tourism. So as United African Transformation was saying, land should be put at the center of all economic activities and come up with programs, land and tourism, land and agriculture, land and mining. And from there, you come up with initiative, then you fund the farmers, you fund the processors, you fund the tourist people, knowing very well that they own their own land, they are not paying the rent and so on. Then from there, out of the money that will generate from there, you'll be able to fund your education system, you'll fund your health system, you'll be able to create more jobs, you'll be able to grow the economy. So from the beginning, and even now in the 3 years of democracy, they are still struggling to ensure that the dignity of Africans is returned back to them. So as United African Transformation, will champion real land program, because the land reform program in this country has failed.
All right. National spokesperson, United Africans Transformation Party, Mighty Mabule, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting us, Africans.
And now we head out of the African continent, where the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has pledged to continue the work in 2025 despite losing the presidential election to Republican Donald Trump. Speaking at the Democratic National Committee's holiday reception in Washington, Harris emphasized hope and determination for the future, signaling her commitment to the Democratic Party's mission moving forward. The remarks come as the Biden-Harris administration prepares to transition out of office following a contentious election cycle. Harris's speech reflects the Democratic Party's resolve to push ahead with its agenda and maintain its influence in shaping the nation's future despite the electoral setback.
And in the new year, we will continue our work with hope, with determination, and with joy. Remember, our country is worth fighting for, and our spirit will not be defeated. And I promise you, I will be with you every step of the way. Thank you.
The one thing I've always believed about public service, and especially about the presidency, is the importance of asking yourself, have we left the country better shape than we found it? Today, I can say with every fiber of my being, with all my heart, the answer to that question is a resounding yes. Yes.
We go on a short break now, and when we come back, we have more stories. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Now, moving on to some business stories. The Nigerian federal government, through the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, has secured over $600 million in foreign loans in 2024 to enhance food security and rural development. The African Development Bank granted a $134 million loan to support nationwide seed and grain production. Additionally, the Rural Access and Agricultural Marketing Project facilitated a $500 million loan from the World Bank, bringing the total funding to $634 million. These funds aim to address challenges in Nigeria's agricultural sector, improve productivity, and strengthen rural access to markets, reflecting the government's commitment to food security and agricultural advancement. An oil spill occurred on Saturday at Shell's Bunny terminal in Nigeria's Delta region due to a ruptured pipeline, according to the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA. The spill has reached the shoreline, prompting containment efforts. NIMASA stated it is collaborating with Shell Petroleum Development Company, SPDC, and other stakeholders to assess the spill's extent and determine necessary follow-up actions. In response, SPDC has shut down the affected pipeline and deployed containment bombs to safeguard neighboring communities. The incident highlights ongoing challenges in Nigeria's oil-producing regions, where pipeline failures and environmental risks remain significant concerns for local communities and the energy sector. Let's head now to some sports stories. South African blind football team is setting off for the International Blind Football Tournament in Russia, taking place from the 18th to the 20th of this month. This groundbreaking journey not only showcases the unwavering spirit and determination of the remarkable athletes, but also highlights a significant step forward for inclusivity in sport on a global stage. Our News Central's correspondent, Bonganis Ziba, was at the Ortambo International Airport for their departure. For more.
The visually impaired team that is going to Russia, that was invited by BRICS, and they are going to play against Brazil, the likes of Russia, big teams that they are going to play with against. But this is the first time that a team from South Africa is being sent to a big tournament like this. But let me just bring in the coach of this team just to speak to us about this tournament and how this game is played. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us here at News Central TV. Quite a beautiful tournament that you and your guys are going to. Can you please tell us more about it?
No, thank you very much. Good morning to you. Good morning to your viewers. We have an exciting tournament that we're going to. It's the first international games for blind football in BRICS countries. So as you mentioned, it's your Brazil, your Russia, your India, China, South Africa, Kazakhstan, Turkey. And we have the privilege to being part of those games as well as South Africa. Blind soccer is 5-a-side. The goalkeeper is sighted. 4 players are blindfolded. The ball's got bells inside. Then it's normal football, and that's how it runs.
And how did you come about to have this team?
The team was never really planned. It was inspired by 2 boys, and then I decided to pitch the idea to the Johannesburg Society for the Blind, which is very close to us. And the gents volunteered. I think we had 6-7 guys who volunteered to come. So we started off with the ball, put it in a plastic to make sound, because getting those balls is very expensive. You don't find them in South Africa. So yeah, we just started it like that.
Well, that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our major stories. We told you that 1 dead, others injured in fatal crash on Third Mainland Bridge. We also mentioned Supreme Court to hear suit challenging President Tinubu's qualification to contest 2023 presidential election. And finally, we mentioned that President Ramaphosa calls for continued progress as South Africa marks National Day of Reconciliation. You can watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, StarTimes, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Blessings Masudu.